moviegoers, I'm the host, and joining me here again are Lala and Hildebeest, and we are about to review the latest X-Men installment, Days of Future Past. But before we begin, let me state that if you have not seen any of the previous X-Men films, you might want to hold off watching the new film and this review in order to avoid an unlimited supply of questions and splitting headaches. But for those who could care less, you have been warned. The film marks the return of not only the cast of both the original X-Men trilogy and X-Men First Class, but also the director of the first two films in the series, Bryan Singer, who has come back to fix the franchise he first started back in the year 2000 and rewrite all the wrongs made during his absence. We open up this time around in the future, where everything has gone to hell with the dominant presence of these giant robotic beings known as the Sentinels, who are built for only one purpose: killing mutants and anyone trying to help them. Only a handful of mutants survive, including Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Halle Berry's Storm, Ellen Page's Kitty Pryde, Sir Ian McKellen's Magneto, and Patrick Stewart's newly resurrected Professor X. Don't ask why, it'll just make your head hurt. Anyway, without going into too much detail, they come up with a plan that could potentially save all of mankind by sending Wolverine back in time to prevent this war from ever happening with the help of a young and currently imprisoned Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender, and a young and completely hopeless Professor X, played by James McAvoy.
I was really scared about this movie, to be honest. I mean, because of the way X3 ended and just like the tone of those movies versus the tone of First Class, like I was like, how are these gonna collide? It was like super low expectations for this movie because I didn't want to hurt myself, because I mean the X-Men, I mean that's something I grew up with. Yeah. I named my freaking dog after Gambit. Like, I mean, X-Men is my childhood, and I was so hoping this movie was good, and it blew me out of the water. There were so many times me and my buddy were just looking at each other, just like, holy shit, this is awesome. And it was just like so perfect. It was dark, it was emotional, and it definitely... I mean, there was moments where I just wanted to cry sometimes. I was just like,
no. I too had similar expectations toward this movie, but mostly from the fact that the entire narrative of the past 6 movies makes very little sense, and now that we have time travel thrown into the mix, I feared that it would have made things even more confusing and convoluted. But somehow they managed to make it all work, and they told a story that was easy enough to follow and gave plenty of time to develop all these characters. And that for me is what set this film apart from most comic book movies out there, was that it dealt more with the human drama than the comic book spectacle. But that's not to say there's not a great deal of incredible action set pieces, because there are, a few of which are some of the best I've ever seen.
It was violent and perfectly violent.
Yeah, like as violent as a PG-13 rating will allow it.
Yeah, I mean, with people getting ripped apart and stuff like that.
We also get an onslaught of new supporting characters, like the creator of the Sentinels, Bolivar Trask, played by Game of Thrones' Peter Dinklage, and a young mutant named Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, whose powers range from running faster than the speed of light and stealing almost every single scene he's in.
He was the comic relief.
He was, and
because that was like, everything else is so serious.
But his scene is so awesome. Like all the scenes he's in, you're just like, this guy is sweet.
Yeah. I mean, for as many characters as there were, you know, it was enough. Like the characters that needed to be developed. Like, it was good to see Logan calm, collected, got his shit together, and even though he doesn't know how to help the professor,
he's doing his best.
You know, and that was a good change of pace for Hugh Jackman. And I think some of the best scenes, I mean, like I said earlier, when it's emotional. Hugh Jackman and James McAvoy had some of the best scenes together.
Oh yeah.
Of just that turmoil.
It's sad. It's almost like watching a close friend hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie was for me. It's like trying to pull somebody out of the darkness, and that's why it resonates with me.
It was written so well.
Yeah.
And the characters that needed to be developed were developed, and you cared about everyone by the end of it.
Yeah.
You know who else was awesome? The Fassbender.
Fassbender.
Good grief. I cannot get enough of that guy. He's just so good.
I think Fassbender brings just a whole different side to Magneto than Ian McKellen ever could.
Yeah.
As great as he is, it made me care about Magneto a lot more from First Class.
Yeah.
You know, even in this one, I think Hugh Jackman, James McAvoy, and Fassbender, those 3 dudes can probably do no wrong right now, in my mind.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique?
I think she's pretty good. I mean, Rebecca Ramon, in my opinion, might be a little hotter, but Jen brings more emotional depth to it. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was shown in First Class as well.
And she's naked.
Yeah, I mean, that's fun to look at.
On the scale from 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Jennifer Lawrence naked without blue stuff on it. That's my 10.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence naked.
Here's my rationale.
Okay.
If I go to a movie and immediately I want to see it again and I think it deserves multiple viewings in the theater, it's a 10.
I couldn't agree with you guys more. Everything about this movie is beyond great. The performances, the direction, the music, the visuals, it's just that perfect blend of character drama and blockbuster entertainment. Basically the exact opposite of what we got out of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Days of Future Past is not only the best film in the X-Men series, but it's also the most fun I've had watching a superhero movie since Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's a 10 out of 10 for me as well. So that concludes our show. I'm the host,
I'm Lala.
I'm Hildebeest.
and we will see you next time on another Midnight Movie Madness.
I have to keep that going.